My mother lost my sisters after her BF hurt them. 5 years later, she blamed me when I refused to let her ruin their lives again. The scent of roast chicken and rosemary always brings me back to Grandma Grace's kitchen, a haven built on the ashes of our past. Even now, 5 years after the storm, the air here feels different, thicker with love, maybe, but also heavy with the unspoken vigilance that never truly leaves survivors. It was a Sunday, the kind that feels slow and golden, and I was helping Lily, my youngest sister, with her American history homework at the big oak table. The late afternoon sun streamed through the window, catching the dust motes dancing in the air and a wisp of Chloe's hair as she sketched furiously in her notebook nearby. Jessica, the oldest of the three, was humming along to some pop song on the radio, chopping vegetables with a practiced rhythm. Grandma Grace moved around us, a quiet, steady presence, her silver hair pulled back in its usual neat bun. It looked like a picture postcard of American family life, didn't it? But pictures can lie. Underneath the laughter and the comforting smells, a low hum of anxiety always thrummed within me. I catch myself watching the girls, scanning their faces for shadows, listening for tremors in their voices. My hand reached out, smoothing Lily's hair, and she looked up at me with those wide, trusting eyes that had seen far too much. At 16, she still had a childlike vulnerability that squeezed my heart. "What was it really like back then, Sarah?" she asked, tapping her pen on the textbook. Her question wasn't about the Great Depression, but about our depression, the one that wasn't in any history book. I swallowed. The flashbacks came unbidden, sharp and unwelcome, like shards of glass under the skin. The stale cigarette smoke that clung to cheap motel curtains. The sickly sweet smell of our mother, Victoria's, perfume, always mixed with the scent of whatever man she'd brought home. Hiding Chloe and Lily under the creaking bed, my hand clamped over their mouths, while Mark, only a year older than me, but always trying to be the man of the house, stood in the doorway, trying to shield Victoria from yet another drunken rage. I remembered the sickening thud when he got hit instead. I remembered Victoria, beautiful and broken, sobbing on my 10-year-old shoulder, wailing about her bad luck with men, never once seeming to realize we were the ones living with the consequences of her choices. And then, the final storm, the one that broke everything. I still can't dwell on the specifics. The silence that screamed louder than any noise, the dawning horror on my face as I understood what her latest boyfriend had done, the cold, sterile feel of the police station waiting room, the social workers with their kind but pitying eyes. Victoria's reaction was a firework display of drama. Disbelief, tears, rage, but it quickly morphed into a self-pitying lament. Why is this happening to me? The judge didn't care why. He saw the pattern, the neglect, the danger. And just like that, Victoria lost custody. I was 18, Mark was 19. We stood before Grandma Grace, desperate, children trying to make adult decisions. "Please, Grandma," I'd beg, tears streaming down my face. "Don't let them go into the system. We'll figure it out." Grandma Grace, our unwavering rock, didn't hesitate. Her eyes, usually so soft, held a fierce, protective fire. "They belong here," she said, her voice firm. "They always have." The plan was for Mark and me to go to college, build stable futures, so we could eventually provide for our sisters. It felt like a betrayal, leaving them, even in Grace's loving care. Mark managed it. He gritted his teeth and graduated last year, his success a beacon, but also a painful reminder of my own path. The pull back to Oakwood, to the girls, was too strong for me. The weight of responsibility, the constant worry, it crushed the academic dream. I dropped out after 2 years, found a job as a library assistant, and moved into a small apartment nearby, spending every spare moment at Grandma's. And for 5 years, we built this fragile piece. 5 years of no contact with Victoria. The girls were healing, finding their footing. Jessica, at 19, wore her anger like armor, fierce and protective in her own right. Chloe, 17, channeled her energy into art, creating worlds she could control. Lily still looked for ghosts. We were a patched-together family, scarred but surviving. Then the email arrived. An unfamiliar address, a subject line that made my breath catch. Thinking of you. It was from Victoria. My hand shook as I read. She'd changed, she claimed. She'd finally broken up with that man. She didn't even use his name. She was going to therapy. She missed us, her babies, so much. She wanted to reconnect. She suggested family therapy. My stomach churned. Shock, suspicion, and a tiny, treacherous flicker of hope. The stubborn, buried wish for the mother I'd never had. I hid it for a week, wrestling with the turmoil, the what-ifs. I told Mark first. His reaction was immediate and predictable. No, absolutely not. Don't fall for it, Sarah. It's a trap. Grandma Grace was more measured. It has to be their choice, Sarah, she said, her eyes sad. But you must protect them, always. The sibling conversation was agonizing. Lily's eyes lit up with that dangerous hope. But she's still our mom. She whispered. Chloe was skeptical, arms crossed. Jessica was furious. After everything, she thinks she could just waltz back in. But Lily's longing tipped the scales. I felt the old weight settle on my shoulders, the ingrained need to fix things, to make everyone happy, even at my own expense. I became the mediator, the reluctant bridge. I replied to Victoria's email, my heart heavy with dread. We can meet, I wrote, but we need to take it slow. The restaurant meeting was a disaster. We chose a neutral, family-style place, hoping the public setting would keep things civil. Victoria arrived, looking older, a desperate brightness in her eyes, her makeup a little too thick. She tried to hug me, and I flinched back, offering a tight, polite nod instead. I saw her eyes narrow for a split second before the mask of hurt settled over her features. She gushed about her journey, her growth, her healing. It felt hollow, rehearsed. The girls picked at their food, their discomfort palpable. Then, Victoria leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. So, when can my girls come home? We could be a real family again. The air froze. Jessica's fork clattered onto her plate. Lily shrank in her seat. I stepped in, my voice strained. Victoria, it's far too soon to talk about that. We're just meeting. But she wouldn't be deterred. She pushed, her voice gaining a familiar, whiny edge, twisting everything into a plea for her needs. I felt the old walls slam down inside me. I retreated into gray rock mode, polite, non-committal, emotionally absent. The meeting ended in a fog of awkwardness. Victoria left with a dramatic sigh, casting a wounded look over her shoulder. That night, the inevitable email landed. I'm so hurt, she wrote. You barely spoke to me. You wouldn't even hug me. You're setting such a bad example for your sisters. Sarah, you're poisoning them against me, just like you always have. The words hit me like a physical blow, igniting a slow-burning rage I hadn't realized I was carrying. Poisoning them? I was the one who'd pulled them from the fire she'd let burn. The storm wasn't over. It was just gathering its strength again. Despite the disastrous restaurant meeting, Victoria wouldn't let go. Emails and texts followed, a relentless stream of guilt-tripping disguised as a desire for healing. She used Lily's whispered maybe as a weapon. See? Lily wants to try. It's just you, Sarah. You're the roadblock to our family's happiness. She painted me as the cold, unforgiving villain, and herself as the long-suffering mother, willing to do anything to get her children back. The pressure was immense, a heavy blanket threatening to suffocate me. She'd already found a therapist, Dr. Evans, and sent a confirmation email for our first session. It's all set up. For us, she'd written. I felt trapped. A part of me knew this was a terrible idea, a walk back into the fire. But another part, the part conditioned by years of her manipulation, felt obligated. And then there were the girls. How could I deny them even the slimmest chance, however misguided, of reconnecting with their mother, if that's what a part of them wanted? So I agreed, my heart a leaden weight. We'll go. I told her, my voice devoid of enthusiasm. But one wrong move, Victoria. One. The evening before the session, I gathered the girls in Grandma's living room. The air was thick with unspoken fears. Listen, I said, looking each of them in the eye. Tomorrow is about you, not her. You don't have to say anything you don't want to. You don't have to forgive anyone. Your only job is to feel safe. If it gets too much, you look at me, and we leave. No questions asked. No matter what happens, we are a family. Grandma, Mark, and me, we've got you. Always. Lily nodded, biting her lip. Chloe stared at the floor. Jessica just looked angry. Dr. Evans' office was exactly what you'd expect. Muted colors, soft lighting, a box of tissues strategically placed. It was designed to be calm, but the air crackled with tension. Dr. Evans, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a professional demeanor, greeted us warmly. Victoria was already there, perched on the edge of the sofa, wringing her hands and trying to look both penitent and hopeful. The session started with introductions. Dr. Evans explained the process, the goals, creating a safe space for communication. Then, she turned to Victoria. It was her cue. She launched into a performance worthy of an Oscar. Tears welled in her eyes as she spoke of her deep regret, her journey of self-discovery, the pain of losing her children. She painted herself as a victim of bad men, bad luck, bad circumstances, who had always tried her best, who loved her children more than life itself. All I want, she choked out, looking imploringly at the girls, is to heal our family, to make things right. It sounded so convincing, so heartfelt, if you didn't know the truth beneath the polish. Dr. Evans, maintaining her professional neutrality, turned to us. And how does that make you all feel? Silence. A thick, suffocating silence that stretched for an eternity. Lily picked furiously at a thread on her jeans. Chloe stared intently at a spot on the carpet. Jessica's jaw was clenched so tight, I thought her teeth might crack. I stayed silent, breathing deeply, trying to anchor myself, trying to hold back the tidal wave of rage building inside me. Victoria saw the silence, and her expression shifted. The hurt look flickered, replaced by something harder, colder. She saw she wasn't getting the immediate absolution she craved. So she pivoted. She turned to Dr. Evans, her voice cracking with manufactured pain, tears now flowing freely. You see, she sobbed. You see what I mean? She won't let them speak. Sarah, she told them not to say anything. It's all her fault. She's always been difficult, always tried to turn my babies against me. I scheduled this to help us. And she's sitting there, splitting us apart. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a decision. It was an eruption. Years of swallowed pain, bitten back words, and protective fury surged forward. I shot to my feet, my chair scraping harshly against the floor. My hands were shaking, my vision blurring. My fault. The words came out, low and trembling at first, then rising to a roar. My fault. You left Lily screaming in her bed while you went out drinking with Richard. You watched Mark get punched in the face for trying to stop Gary from touching Jessica. You told a 12-year-old Chloe that your boyfriend thought her developing body was interesting. You let a man who hurt them live under your roof. You smelled the smoke, you saw the flames, and you did nothing. You did worse than nothing. You enabled it. You protected them, your men, never us. And now you dare to sit here and blame me? No, not anymore. The words poured out, raw and unfiltered, specific and damning. Each one was a truth Victoria had spent years burying. Victoria's face crumpled, her sobbing now ugly and real. Whether from guilt or shock, I couldn't tell. The girls were crying openly, a mixture of fear and, I saw with a jolt, a painful validation. Dr. Evans looked stunned, trying to interject. Sarah, let's just take a breath. There are no more breaths to take with her. I cut through her, my voice raw. I'm done. I won't sit here and be your scapegoat. You split this family, Victoria. Years ago, not me. And with that, I turned and walked out, leaving the wreckage of her lies and our shattered past behind me. The drive back to Grandma's was a blur. The girls were silent, huddled together. That night, my phone exploded. Aunt May was the first. How could you? She screamed down the line. Your mother is devastated. She's trying so hard, and you just rip her apart. You are a horrible, unforgiving person. Texts followed from cousins, from old family friends, all singing the same tune, all painting me as the monster. The weight of it all crushed me. I locked myself in my room, the voices from the phone echoing in my head. Was I cruel? Did I go too far? The doubt crept in, insidious and cold. Am I the monster they say I am? I felt utterly alone, broken. My fingers trembled as I opened my laptop, tears blurring the screen, and I began to type, "Mom, I'm sorry." I almost hit send. I almost crawled back into the role she'd assigned me. Just as my finger hovered over the send button, a new email notification popped up. It was 4 a.m. The sender, Victoria. My blood ran cold. With a sense of dread, I clicked it open, abandoning the apology I'd been about to offer. Reading Victoria's email was like watching a slow-motion car crash. It was a masterclass in manipulation, a symphony of self-pity and blame. She was truly hurt and devastated. Aunt May, her loyal lieutenant, had apparently found some anonymous online post I'd made in a moment of weakness, or perhaps Victoria invented it, and shared it, confirming her victimhood. She claimed she was going to explain herself further, but I'd ruined it. She painted herself as the ultimate martyr. I was a victim too, she wrote. Do you not think it ate me up inside every time you guys cried? She twisted my outburst into a blatantly visible disrespect and uncalled for attack. She demanded an apology and declared that she would be going no contact with me until I provided one. And then, buried amidst the guilt trips and accusations, came the twist. The line that changed everything. I'm in a new relationship now, she wrote, almost casually, with a very loving man. He was the main one who encouraged me to extend an olive branch. I was going to surprise you and your siblings in therapy. Surprise us. The word echoed in my mind. A new man. Already. It wasn't about us. It was never about us. It was about her image, about presenting a happy, whole family to her new supply. The drafted apology on my screen suddenly looked pathetic. The guilt that had been choking me for hours evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. It was a painful, bitter realization, but it was also profoundly liberating. I wasn't the monster. I was the one who saw the truth. I deleted the apology without a second thought. The next day, armed with this icy certainty, I showed Victoria's email to Mark and Grandma Grace. Mark swore under his breath. I told you so, Sarah. She never changes. Grandma Grace's face was etched with a deep sadness, but her eyes held a new resolve. It's time, she said softly. It's time they knew for sure. I gathered my sisters. I didn't push or persuade. I simply laid the email on the kitchen table and let them read it. I watched their faces change. Lily's hope finally extinguishing, Chloe's skepticism hardening into certainty, Jessica's anger solidifying into a quiet, determined strength. Then I asked them, my voice gentle but firm, "What do you need to feel safe? What do you want?" They talked for a long time, first amongst themselves, then with me, Mark, and Grace. For the first time, it felt like they were driving the conversation. And then they decided, together. They sat down and wrote a joint letter. It wasn't angry, it was just final. Lily's hand trembled as she signed her name, but she did it. Mom, it read, "We need space. We need to heal. We can't see you right now. Maybe someday, but not now. Please respect this." It was their voice, their boundary. Watching them, I felt a surge of pride so fierce it almost brought me to tears. But a part of me needed more. Not revenge, but understanding. Why? Why had it always been like this? I asked Grandma Grace if there were any old papers, anything Victoria had left behind when she'd moved out years ago. I just need to know why, I explained. That night, I sat on the floor of Grandma's attic, surrounded by dusty boxes. It was an archaeology of pain, old-school reports with notes about absences, faded photos of forced smiles, bills marked overdue. And then I found it, a thin, forgotten file folder. Inside, it wasn't a dramatic diary entry, but something colder, more damning. Copies of ignored letters from the school psychologist expressing deep concern about Jessica's withdrawal. Eviction notices. And then the bank statements. They showed child support payments deposited, followed by a pattern of large cash withdrawals and charges at local bars. Often just days before Victoria would cry to us about having no money for food. There were statements from the time her abuser lived with us, showing large purchases he made, while the children's needs were clearly neglected. It was undeniable. Cold, hard proof of long-term neglect, financial mismanagement, and a chilling disregard for her children's well-being. It wasn't just emotional failure. It was a documented pattern of abandonment. This wasn't a weapon for attack, but it was a shield, a powerful one. Victoria, predictably, ignored the sister's letter. She called Grandma Grace, demanding to see her kids. Grace calmly told her they had made their decision and put her on speaker. One by one, starting with Jessica and ending with Lily's quiet but firm, "No, Mom. Not now," they told her. Victoria shrieked down the phone before Grace hung up. An hour later, her car pulled up outside. The new BF was in the passenger seat, looking uncomfortable. Victoria marched up to the door, her face a mask of righteous fury. Grace opened it, with me and Mark standing right behind her. "Let me in," Victoria demanded. "These are my children." Grace stood firm. "They've told you no, Victoria." Victoria turned her fury on me. "This is your doing. You." I stepped forward, past Grace. There was no shouting in my voice now, only an unwavering calm that seemed to unnerve her more than any rage. "Victoria," I said, my voice low, "you received their letter. They said no. You will respect that." She blustered. "You can't keep me." "I can." I cut her off. "And I will. Because unlike you, I will protect them. And I know everything, Victoria." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. "I know about the money. I know about the letters. I know exactly how you tried your best all those years." I didn't need to show her the folder. The knowledge was in my eyes. I have proof. Proof that a judge would find very interesting. Proof that, I imagine, new BF's name might find interesting too. I glanced towards the car. "This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning. Leave now, and do not come back. If you try, if you harass them or us in any way, you will regret it. I promise you that." For the first time in my life, I saw genuine fear in my mother's eyes. Not tears, not anger, but the cold, hard fear of exposure. Her mask crumbled. She saw she had no power here. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing, but no sound came out. Then she turned, stumbled back to her car, and drove away. We watched until the taillights disappeared, a profound, heavy silence settling over us. In the days that followed Victoria's retreat, a strange, unsettling silence descended. The angry calls and texts stopped. The constant, low-level dread that had been my companion for years began to recede, replaced by an unfamiliar quiet. It wasn't quite peace, not yet, but it was the absence of war, and that felt like a victory in itself. We knew, however, that a single confrontation might not be enough. Guided by Grace's practical wisdom, Mark and I consulted a family lawyer. We didn't want to attack. We wanted to build a fortress. The lawyer, a kind but no-nonsense woman named Ms. Albright, reviewed the documents I found. Her expression grew grim. "This is significant," she said. "While Victoria currently has no legal standing, this documentation strongly supports a case for a restraining order should she ever attempt further contact or try to challenge custody in the future. It demonstrates a clear, long-term pattern of neglect." Just knowing we had that option, that legal backup, was like adding another deadbolt to our door. It gave us a tangible sense of security. We took the next step, blocking Victoria and her known enablers on every platform. Phones, social media, email. It felt brutal, like severing a limb, even a diseased one. There were moments, late at night, when a wave of grief would wash over me. I'd look at an old photograph, one from before the worst of it, a rare shot where Victoria's smile almost reached her eyes, and I'd mourn. Not for the mother I had, but for the mother I should have had, the one I'd dreamed of as a little girl. It's a strange kind of grief, mourning someone who is still alive, acknowledging that the person you needed simply doesn't exist. But alongside the grief, there was healing. Real, messy, non-linear healing. We started going to family therapy, but this time it was our family, Grace, Mark, the girls, and me. We learned to talk, really talk about the scars we carried. We learned new ways to support each other, to navigate the triggers and fears that still lingered. I started individual therapy too. Dr. Evans, despite the dramatic end to our session with Victoria, had recommended a colleague. With her help, I began to unravel the tangled knots of guilt and over-responsibility that had defined me for so long. I learned that my worth wasn't tied to how much I could fix, and that setting boundaries wasn't selfish. It was survival. Slowly, tentatively, we started building our own traditions. We had Sunday dinners that were loud and chaotic, but filled with genuine laughter. We celebrated birthdays with homemade cakes and silly decorations. Mark, who now lived an hour away but visited almost every weekend, became the fun uncle/brother, teaching Lily to drive, helping Chloe build an art portfolio, and having long, serious talks with Jessica about her future. He was a steady, kind male presence, a healing balm on old wounds. The girls blossomed in their own ways. Jessica, still fiery, channeled her passion into volunteering at an animal shelter and decided she wanted to become a vet tech. Chloe won a local art competition, her confidence growing with every brushstroke. And Lily, my quiet Lily, joined the high school debate club. Watching her stand up and argue a point, her voice clear and strong, brought tears to my eyes. They still had bad days, days when the shadows returned, but now they knew how to reach for the light and how to reach for each other. I even found myself with enough mental space to re-enroll in a community college course. Just one, studying literature, something just for me. Months turned into a year. One Saturday afternoon, I was at the Oakwood Mall looking for a birthday gift for Grace. As I sat in the food court, sipping a coffee, I saw her. Victoria. She was across the wide expanse, sitting with a new BF. She was laughing, that high-pitched, slightly too loud laugh I remembered. She looked the same. Maybe a few more lines around her eyes, but essentially unchanged. She waved her hands as she talked, playing the part of a happy, carefree woman. A familiar pang hit my chest, but it wasn't anger or sadness or even pity. It was nothing. A profound, almost shocking detachment. She was a stranger, a woman I used to know, whose story no longer intertwined with mine. She never saw me. I gathered my bags, turned, and walked away, back towards my real life, my real family. Healing isn't a destination. It's a journey, often on a winding, difficult road. We carry scars, all of us. You can see them sometimes in a flinch, a moment of hesitation, a shadow in the eyes. But scars don't mean you're broken. They mean you survived. We survived. We learned that family isn't an obligation written in blood. It's a sanctuary built on trust, respect, and a love that protects rather than demands. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is lock the door to protect what's inside. It's never truly finished, this process. But every day, we wake up and we choose. We choose healing. We choose peace. We choose each other. And for us, for now, that is more than enough. It's everything. What choices have you made, or what choices do you need to make to find your own peace?